Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah. How are we feeling today? Yeah. We got an amazing book launch, Hovering by Carol V. Davis. And yeah, let's give a round of applause to Carol. And let's give a round of applause to Lory Bedikian, who is joining us as co-feature this afternoon as well. I want to welcome you to the Wanda Coleman Theater. My name is Ivan Salinas, Programs Manager here in this beautiful space. I'd like to start by acknowledging our presence in unceded territory. We stand in solidarity with indigenous Tongva people who are the original stewards of this land. We are committed to provide a space for indigenous communities and artists. Beyond Baroque is a place dedicated to the possibilities of language. It was founded in 1968 by George Drury Smith. We started out as an experimental literary magazine until it evolved into the interdisciplinary space it is today. This building itself first served as the original Venice City Hall, was built in 1903, and Beyond Baroque poets and artists took it over in 1978, and it has been our home since then. We continue to offer our free Monday night fiction workshop, currently facilitated by Raquel Baker, and our historic Wednesday night poetry workshop, currently led by Martin Yago. Both workshops have been every week online, virtually on the platform of Zoom, and participants are invited to workshop their pieces with a group of participants, and you can bring your drafts and have them looked at, get feedback on your poetry or your fiction, and these happen every Monday and Wednesday. So you can sign up via our website. Those are all free workshops. And we just celebrated National Poetry Month, and we are looking forward to a new month here in May. So we have a regular calendar of events. Our program series happen every Friday night and every Saturday. Tonight we have Poet Film Stage. Right after this, an ensemble of about 25 performers bridging theater with film and poetry. And we'll have a new set of poets in the coming weeks. We'll have a book launch from a posthumous release of essays and writings by our former executive director, Fred Dewey. The name of that book is Without the Consent of the People. And we are also having a closing reading with artist Judy Kleinberg. The program is titled Juicy Questions About Reality, and that is part of the exhibition that you currently see in both floors. Right here in the lobby, we have half of the exhibition of the poem My Trembling Candle, and upstairs is the rest of the Mike Kelly Gallery, where you can see the collage artworks that Judy Kleinberg has made. And later on in the month, we'll also have a poetry and wine tasting. It's a fundraiser for the organization, and we'll be bringing winemakers from Paso Robles, that includes Paco Wines and Sochi Wines, and also from Boyle Heights, East Side Love. So tickets are on sale, and all of those proceeds will go to the organization, and you can help us directly to provide a space for artists and writers in our theater, and as well as the programming that we have virtually and with our fellows, the Linda J. Albertano Poetry Fellows. And last but not least, we'll also have a LA book launch with William Archila for Canicula, Dog Days, published by Red Hen. Yeah. And that'll be a bilingual reading, and it has 3 other amazing co-features. So yeah, shout out to William, and thank you. So without further ado, we can get into some writings and readings. I just want to say that after the reading, if you're interested in becoming a member, you can pledge $50, $75, and that gets you into our events for free for an entire year. It gives you perks to discounts and merch in the bookstore, and you are once again supporting the this beautiful art space, and we can provide an honorarium to poets. We can pay the poets that we invite and keep this ship running. We live stream all events. In the booth, we have Eric Alberg. Let's give him a hand of applause. Yeah. Our executive director, now officially announced, is Jimmy Vega. And he's also core member of the team. And we have Rhiannon Cielos Chavez in the bookstore. So after the readings, I'm sure that our authors will be more than happy to sign them. I think we've run out of copies of Hovering, fortunately, by Carol V. Davis, but you could always leave your name and email or phone number, and we could see about shipping a copy to you if you purchase one. So to start off with the readings this afternoon, I'll first introduce Lory Bedikian, who is the author of Jagadakeer? Is that how you pronounce it?
That's beautiful.
Jagadakeer, Apology to the Body. And this was published last year, and it's awesome to be hosting you for a reading from your collection. Lory is the author of the Book of Lamenting, winner of the Philip Levine Prize for Poetry. Her poems have been published in multiple journals, including Tin House, the Adroit Journal, the LA Review, and Gulf Coast. She teaches poetry workshops in Los Angeles. And Jagadakeer is the Raz Shoemaker Prairie Schooner Book Prize in Poetry. So let's give a round of applause to Lory Bedikian.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for your patience as I set myself up. I broke my hand. Okay. We don't have to talk about it anymore. That kind of thing, right? Thank you so much for being here. First and foremost, I want to say it's such an honor to be reading with Carol Davis. There are poets that you learn to love or like or admire because you're told to. You're taught about them. They win big things, and then you go to get your book signed. You think it's a big deal because it's like, whatever. But when I read a poem by Carol Davis, I feel as though I'm reading something from someone who has read the best stuff out there, knows what she's doing, has a spirit that is open and informed, not only by language, but by life. And I love that about her, and I love that about her work. I mean, I don't say this all the time, but I would buy the book and then buy another one for someone who's never read great poetry and then just give it to them as a gift. So that's my advice. So thank you, Carol, for inviting me. This is truly an honor. So I'm going to be reading from just a few poems from Jagadakeer, Apology to the Body. This is my second book, and stuff that, things that are not said in the formal bio is that I'm the daughter of immigrants. My father was from Lebanon. My mother was from Syria. I was born in San Francisco, and they were great people. That's all I'll say. They were great, great people. And my grandmother, Siona Bajan, who my first book, the Book of Lamenting, which won the Levine Prize, that was dedicated to her. She was a genocide survivor, and she basically raised me, and I will always be grateful for that. So I'll begin with the opening poem of the book, because it's sort of an introduction to the book and maybe even to who I am as a person. And as we know, poems, even though we say the speaker of the poem, I mean, it's informed by my life. Oh, and I'll add this as well because I think it's important to know. I lost them both sort of back to back. My father died, and then about a year and 2 months later, my mom died at the beginning of the pandemic. It was my 50th birthday, and a couple days later, she died. And it was just such a strange thing for all of us. So this is Ode to Their Leaving. As if the sky which darkened on that monumental day, the day Lebanon would be left behind for you both. The day all relations, kin, unshaven onlookers grit their teeth, or the Kuratsis, villagers, village women, began the ritual of tears, handkerchiefs tied to the trees. The sheep slaughtered for the last feast, as if the flight above the Atlantic and all the cirrus clouds bowing to the course, the passport the husband opens and closes over and over again, knowing he may lose them all. To another set of civil unrests, another war calculated like the backgammon board, too large and burdensome to bring along. As if the teeth of the East Coast's cold, the stifled air of the small apartments, the lies that led to the losing of jobs they said would replenish the spent money. As if all of this was not enough of a cauldron, a wingless griffin. The husband dies first. A year later, the wife dies. And these two called father, mother in one's eeriest and quietest sleep, not birth-like or dream-like, but the time of post-midnight hallucinatory lullabies and afterthoughts. Why do you not say who you are? Say it. Say daughter. Daughter holding genetics of immigrant ink stains, holding the small histories of their breakfast blabbering. And so what did you know of their demise? Father scanned the news of the world, knew the guilt of countries and mustached biographies, while he never spoke of his ills. The spine fractured, the valves roadblocked, the vocal cords bombed. If anger was his food, then food was his poison. The bites didn't matter. The morsels mother fed him mocked even the smallest capillaries. And mother, did you tell him what was coming, or did you decide to follow? Is it a daughter's greatest sin to ask? But look how quiet I am. I watch the world cry itself to sleep. I pinch the spices into their bowls, as you did the day you were married, as you did on the days you died. Thank you. So I like to speak to people listening to me, and I'm so grateful to be listened to. I like to make comments about myself and things that inform my work. So in 1999, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I was told by my mother that it's shameful to speak of it, that we don't tell people about our ills. We don't tell people we have diseases. But then she and my father would sit around and talk about my uncle's kidney issues. So I'm like, what about me, you know? So a lot of the book discusses that, refers to that. And so it was really hard. It was really difficult because I loved my parents and I respected my parents. That's what I was taught. No matter what they did, no matter what seemed unfair, I always loved them. But when they did pass away, it was my goal to get this book done and out. And I did. And so the book used to be called Apology to the Body, but during the pandemic, I worked on it and I named it Jagadakeer. Jagadakeer, and Yvonne did a great job on the word. Jagadakeer means, in Armenian, the writing on the forehead. Jagad is the forehead. Kir is a letter that you write, like a consonant, like a letter. And so the writing on your forehead, which means your fate or your destiny. So knowing that my father was in love with compound words, I renamed, I retitled, I did revision, and I thought it has to be called Jagadakeer, Apology to the Body. Here's the original title poem. Apology to the Body. Sorry for mercury strewn in veins of fish, for traces of carbon monoxide loose in the air, for radiation that circles and enters the aura. Sorry, for deliberate puffs and sips late in the night for an empty stomach burning with coffee grounds. Sorry for words of magma, thoughts rough as tufa, scratching the indivisible cell's fragile nerves, divisions of labor and function. For scraping skin until it bled, garnet scars in constellation form, for chemicals bathing in a pool of genetics under viral stars. I'm looking to cleanse regret. I want to give you a balm for lesions, give you evening primrose, milk thistle, turmeric borage, feet moving toward a language of trees, hands deciphering sediment, steady rhythm back in the pulse, the breathing you knew before you were born. Believe me that we began together, and I will mend each sheath of myelin, reverse the dark that grows behind my eyes. So, Carolyn and I discussed reading today, and I think, Carol, did we talk about lightening up the subject matter a little bit? And we're like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So, I don't know if I told you, when you love someone, you kind of talk to them in your head, even though you're like, oh yeah, I never said this to her. But I think in my spirit, in my head, I said to Carol, it's okay. They can handle it. But I thought about this last night. I'm like, well, I can, there are my sticky notes. I was wondering where they were. Last night I thought, well, you know what I can do? I can read a poem that's kind of a love poem. And that might lighten things up just for like a minute. And then I'll go back to the depressing stuff. Okay. I think we're all just living every day nowadays, aren't we courageous? Right? Like getting through each day. Don't get me started. Okay. Back to serious poet mode. Okay. This is for my husband, William Archila, who will be reading here. William, are you here? Yeah, okay. He has laryngitis. Okay, great. Harmonic implications on daylight saving time. Although we've sprung forward, lost 1 good hour, we're all getting on with our lives. This is what I'm thinking while the sky opens up behind spring's dizzy birds, while Yusef Latif's love blows through the speakers, a charm that runs further than the trek from Chattanooga to the Great Lakes, wind vibrating off every bark and branch. I love this world. 2. Despite all the people who have demands on my time and all those daily chores that take naps in piles around the house, I want my husband to tell me I'm still his. Sitting here against the open window's bright calligraphy, near the beauty of insects who praise the mistakes of the creeping fig. But I know he has to pay the bills first. I don't want to resent anything anymore. Not the squirrels who won't let up and run all day along the top cinder blocks of the yard, not the age of my skin and all its implications, the power lines interrupting the blue. I never knew an oboe could make me cry, make me stop rattling dishes and draw me to plum blossoms, to the clarity that comes when a man decides to play a love theme. But I'm not thinking of motion pictures or fables. I'm embracing all the things I've learned these 42 years while the oaks stood by, how to play jazz in the ear of a butterfly, how to catch Yusef's eastern pulse behind his thick black-rimmed glasses, like my husband's when we first met. I'm falling in love with everything again. Even the breeze that's become colder. The house that's empty and ready to be fed. So this is interesting. I do this often. Carol, don't worry. I'm looking at the time. I'm just going to change things a little bit. You remember when it said, I've learned these 42 years? Raise your hand if you remember that part. Were you listening? Okay. I'm 56. I wrote this when I was 42, that poem. So this book is sort of like when poets have a new one selected, because my first book won the Philip Levine in 2010, was published in 2011, and then what the heck happened exactly? We can talk about it afterwards if anyone's interested. But I mean, it's just, if the writers out there, you want it to happen like this. And my grandma would say, everything in due time, Their destiny, Jagadakeer, right? So it's amazing that was written when I was 42 years old and I'm 56. Here I am. Okay, I'm on schedule, and I will now read one more short poem from the book. I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting poetry. Thank you for supporting Beyond Baroque. And if you are here because you know and love Carol, you are so lucky. She's just one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. I mean it. I don't like a lot of people. Actually, I don't like most people. Actually, I shouldn't get into it. I don't like most people. That's for sure. But I have a lot of love in my heart. It's a very strange combination. I want to close with this poem. It was just, I feel very honored. It was on poets.org from the Academy. And it's not in the book. It's not in this book, but it's still, I think, it's exemplary of my voice and what I try to do with my work. And it's about the fact that my children and I were in a very bad car accident in March of 2025. And it's like, I really, really felt that everything was going to get better. I'm sure you've been through that. I'm like, everything's going to get better. I was just so excited. They were on spring break, and we were going to go to the AWP Writers Conference, and then we got in this horrible car crash. But then one gesture from one son, and I learned. So thank you for being here, and I will close with this poem. And Carol, thank you so much for being my friend and being someone that I admire so deeply. My son rests his cheek on the wrecked car. An act can be many things at once. We can be deliverers or takers, both. Was he saying thank you to the airbags? Thank you to the chassis for its metal promise to stop the impact short of breath and body and the bureaucracy of the outside world? Praising all of it today. Praising the collision, recalculated that it could have been worse. Where is poetry if it is not at the base of the wreck? Rich said it clearly, so clear we could see the ocean's bottom as if the glass had been emptied out from one last sip. My son, and then my other son, and then the one who knows what I'm talking about. What if I say, I want this poem to bless you, the reader? Will you take it? Will you trust that it, line by line, truly means to protest harm, means well? Thank you. And now, Yvonne, are you introducing Carol, or may I? Okay. I mean, I could, but I might overspeak. No. Thank you so much, Carol.
Yeah, let's keep it going for Lory Bedikian, Jagadakeer. Yeah, we have copies of Jagadakeer in the library, and we have copies of the previous collection as well. So now we are going to hear from Carol Davis, who's the author of Below Zero, Because I Cannot Leave This Body, and Between Storms. She won the 2007 T.S. Eliot Prize for Into the Arms of Pushkin, Poems of St. Petersburg, It's Time to Talk About. And that book was published in Russia in a bilingual English and Russian edition. Her poetry has been read on National Public Radio, the Library of Congress, and Radio Russia. Twice a Fulbright Scholar in Russia from 1996 to 1997 and 2005. She taught in Siberia, winters 2017 and 2018, and teaches at Santa Monica College, California, and Antioch University of Los Angeles. And in 2020, she was awarded a Fulbright Specialist grant for Siberia. So let's welcome Carol V. Davis.
I'm not getting any taller, so. So thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, Yvonne, thank you, Beyond Baroque, and to you, everyone, for coming, and to my new publisher who's in Ann Arbor, Brian Jacobs of Tofu Inc. Arts Press. I'm going to start with a couple of poems from the last book called Below Zero. So as you now know, if you didn't, I lived in Russia on and off for a long, long time. And this is a St. Petersburg poem. It's called White Nights. Midnight could be noon, people strolling on the embankment, unable or unwilling to tell the difference. Drunken song and linked arms. It is January, I love, when night tucks into the corners of the city with piles of snow pushed against the curb. The blinking lights of the Blini Cafe, the samovar's breath puffing against the front window. Walking back from the metro, blackness presses against the Soviet block apartments until they are indistinguishable. Darkness untamed even in this major metropolis. The day I took the wrong minibus ended far from the city, the fear of never getting back, picturing my wool coat curled beneath the birches, a small animal. Not that the bus left me so far out, but alone on a road past a half-frozen lake, a shabby church with a midnight cupola, no English in sight. I crossed the road, stamped my feet to keep from numbing, a prayer to keep my tongue from losing its agility. A man pulled a sled piled with firewood on a path that was no path. I waited. So I had a National Park Service in Nebraska, which to me was very exotic. Russia isn't, but Nebraska was. And this is a Nebraska poem. It's called Defending the Prairie. You can't love the mountains if you don't love the prairie, the minister's daughter proclaims, leaning back in the luncheonette booth. Books and grasses are what she loves most. A slight edge when she recounts visitors' dismissal of these flat fields, as if height overrules all. The Hasids believe the world is recreated each moment. The chipping sparrow's trill bounces from box elder to bur oak as the cardinal's two-syllable call thumps a bass line. The light shifts, looking for refuge, hooking in the blue stem. Shadows shrink as the sun hurries to settle its body for the night. Air cooling, the meadowlark tests its lungs. Sure. Okay.
I think it'll be better. Then we can see your face.
I don't know. So let me know if you can't hear me. So I'm going to now read some of the poems from the new book. As some of you know, my husband had a somewhat unusual form of Alzheimer's where it affected, he always knew who we were, but it was language, and he was an academic. So the book is exploring that. So this is the first poem in the book. It's called Scan. I have my own room since we moved, a bed, a desk, a dresser, a door closed. Refuge, though his radio seeps through the wall, the pierce of a trumpet or a drum startling. His brain scan shows gray spots like patches of fog, neurons dying, tangles of tau proteins forming. It gets worse. Shoe comes out as shirt before a stream of curses explode. Sometimes I am less than sympathetic, tired of his anger, just tired, only the beginning. Thinking of water. Inching towards November, still no rain, this 5th year of drought. My husband, too, is parched, his language withering, sometimes a drip, sometimes a deluge. The other day he meant frontier, only it burst out as furniture, accompanied by a storm of anger. As his abilities creak backwards, I picture him at 8, puppy-like, his body not yet grown into his jutting ears, front teeth too big, with a father who demanded to be worshipped by everyone, even his own children, a mother who wished she were Boston Brahmin, not from immigrant stock. Am I now the depository of his memories? Our own children have taken on roles they don't deserve, having to shave him, take him for a walk, a torrent of sorrow. I know these are dark, so just bear with me. So the next poem is called Seabirds. I'm a fake wannabe birder, so true confessions. Seabirds. Here on a spit of land at the edge of the country, where in college friends and I would cross the border for dinner, be waved through customs, zip back to the dorms before midnight. A biologist explains the evolution of seabirds. The strutters, the pickers, how one beak narrowing could extract crustaceans buried in the sand, while another's beak, broadening into a pouch, scoops fish out of the waves. My husband, always with an opinion, is retreating, beginning to wander in a labyrinth I cannot follow. His path, not predictable as the tide pulsing in and out, is punctuated by long silences 1 minute, outbursts of anger the next. The doctors fluctuate between a show of certainty, suggesting medications not to cure but to slow, and wavering, demonstrating too clearly what they cannot predict. I can't say I have the needed patience, spend too much time dreaming of escape, longing even for the sub-zero temperatures of Siberia. Just now, the biologist points out a black oyster catcher on an outcrop of rock, legs covered in what looks like flesh stockings, red beak, yellow eye, rimmed red. It's rat-a-tat-tat, insistent. He stabs the air, vigilant over the shoreline, he claims. So I used to be a fairly serious musician studying music. And this is, those of you who played music as children or as an adult might know music -1. So this is music -1. Sometimes I practiced using music -1. Telemann's Trio Sonata in C major, the harpsichord accompaniment unflappable whenever I stumbled. I wish the recording would pause on its own, wait for me to catch up. Slow does not mean easy. I learned to count in eighth notes, challenging as I was never good in math. A woodwind instrument strengthened my lungs, helping my asthma as I summoned the will to regulate my breath. Now, as my husband loses words, he scrambles, growing more and more frustrated. My own responses speed up, irritation mounting. Think about the connections between the notes, my music teacher once said. I tried to measure the rests correctly, but I'd enter too soon or half a bar late. My husband's speech beats a staccato rhythm, a frantic search for what he cannot find, a sentence -1. So this poem wanders from the near present to back to St. Petersburg. It's called Of Course. You understand my wish, a husband with Alzheimer's, his demands as numerous as pricks of light. Once on a Petersburg night, between late fall and the threat of first snow, a student urged me up a rickety wooden ladder missing rungs to a door jammed shut but pushable. We emerged onto the roof of a pre-revolution 4-story. Streets and skylines stretched out like branches of spruce. This city I'd mostly traversed underground, knew by number of minutes between metro stops. With no railing, the view terrifying, too easy to step off. Later that week at an exhibit of Marc Chagall's set for the Moscow Jewish Theater, now an impossibility, one canvas took up a whole wall. The sketched man pale, as if he knew flying from a roof was his only chance. This was 1921, before Chagall himself had to flee Europe. Now, back in the United States, I think of that figure, wishing I too could launch into a swirl of sky, my own escape. So just a couple more from this book, and then I'll read a few more. This is called Merry-Go-Round. An A and an R were the first to detach. The surrounding letters squeezed together so the word could be read. Soon other letters, in other words, uncoupled, like wooden animals in a merry-go-round, breaking free from centripetal force and galloping through the fairgrounds to discover what they missed those years in captivity. The English teacher managed for a while. Students reading passages aloud, he limped to the end of the semester until he could no longer fool anyone and was forced to retire, as the doctors themselves stumbled, taking months, or was it years, to diagnose what no one wanted to hear. So this is the title poem of the book, and it's called Hovering. My husband hovers between this world and the next. Sometimes he takes a step or two, The kids and I hold our breath, willing him to pause. He rarely does. We are powerless, but I refuse to give up. My pleas to him ever urgent. Eat, drink. No turning back now. His cheekbones sharpen as the lake beds of his cheeks empty. In my daily calls, the nurses attempt cheer, dutifully reporting how many spoonfuls and sips. When I arrive, he turns to me, but what he understands now, I cannot know. So I'll read two recent poems and then finish with one more from Hovering. This is a prose poem, and it's called Counting. 30 years since we met, 12 since the invasion of Crimea, 10 since we saw one another, 7 since we spoke on the phone, 4 of full-scale war. I could keep counting. Our countries locked in uneasy relations, though a portrait of my president and yours now hangs in the White House, mine in Washington, not yours in Moscow. International touring dates of your orchestra canceled, even 19th century composers shunned. In Odessa, street names of writers changed from the echo of Russia. Your son too old to be drafted, grandsons too young. Small crumbs of luck. In the past, university students were granted deferments, or parents resorted to bribes. Before the war, no one I knew served. Now, in desperation, Moscow offers prisoners release if they agree to be sent to the front. Young men from the poor region of Siberia where I last taught, drafted. A smuggled video of a Buryat funeral in the sports arena where I watched a soccer match. Buddhist priests officiated, Russian army officers off to the side. The families stood motionless, grief buried so as not to distress the dead on their journey to the next life. No word from Siberia, none from you in St. Petersburg. I have lost count. I actually did hear from Siberia yesterday, but it was the first time in a long time. So this is an LA poem, or post-fire, and it's called Coyote. He sprung straight up like a cartoon character, landing in the same spot as he had launched. We stood silent as if in prayer, watching. He must have spotted prey or smelled a small creature, hidden or burrowed. Maybe a twitch in the stubble of grass had alerted him. Out on a walk as night crept into day, the sky a lavender of transition. In a few hours, this field would fill with children swinging their bats, sliding into bases, parents crammed onto bleachers that overheated as the sun settled above them. Animals have migrated into this neighborhood, dense with houses. The scorched hills a few miles north have thrust them here. Last week at the same early hour, a skunk flashed by, as if comically late for a meeting, its black and white stripes unmistakable. That night, cottontails appeared in front of my building, motionless. I was tempted to bring them an offering of lettuce, but that too would knock at the order of nature, inviting more coyotes. The next day, the region was walloped with an unseasonable scorching heat, the world already off balance. So I'll finish with one last poem from Hovering, and thank you very much to Lory, too. And it's autobiographical. It's called Ghosts. There is no such thing. I know this, the way I understand that spitting over my shoulder to ward off the evil eye is not effective, though I do it to safeguard my children's health. I cannot utter the name of the man who hourly lies. When he hurls another on TV, I hear a smirk, even though smirks make no sound, make no noise. I glance to my left. My husband is sitting beside me on the couch. The fact that he's been dead a year has no bearing. If anything would bring him back from the grave, it would be something political. After all, we trekked first to Spain to see the bullet holes where Franco's army shot the partisans, then to Berlin, where my husband insisted on walking the path where the communist Karl Liebknecht was executed in Tiergarten. Finally, to visit Marx's grave in London. As his mind slipped the last months and his body surrendered the will to keep going, I wondered how much he understood. He laughed at my anecdote about waiters pouring soup into Trotsky's lap when he told the other patrons in a dairy restaurant not to tip, that the staff should get a living wage. My husband did not believe in ghosts and would have scoffed at his reappearance now. But it is true. I know. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming, and we'll see you outside.
Yeah, we'll see you all in the lobby. Feel free to browse through our bookstore and our space. We have the gallery upstairs, and I'm sure our poets will be signing books. Thank you all for being here.